Hi guys, welcome to my monthly wrap up for February. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I've read in February, what challenges they qualified for and what I thought of them. The first book I finished in February was The Dark Days Club by Alison Goodman. This is a historical fantasy set in Regency London and featuring a young lady who is entering society, who has to have her presentation to the Queen and then basically enter the marriage market. She's expected to make a good match, and then she finds out that she is a demon hunter, that her mother, who died in mysterious circumstances, was also a demon hunter, and that she has these abilities. I really enjoyed it. The historical details were fantastic, and I loved that there are some real historical figures that appear in the book. Even if they just make brief cameos, it's still really exciting. It is quite slow paced, I found, and I'm hoping that in later books it picks up a bit. I think that it had such slow pace this time around because the author wanted to properly introduce us to the world and society and all the difficult decisions that the main character, Lady Helen, has to make. And I really enjoyed that. I really liked all the historical details and everything. However, I was conscious as I was reading it that the plot was moving along quite slowly. So even though I didn't mind it, it was something I was aware of. I think that's something to bear in mind. If you like your books to be very chop chop chop, fast moving plot, then maybe this is one to skip. But if you're like me and you don't mind slow build up and lots of historical detail, as long as it's very interesting and relevant, then you will probably like this, like I did. Next up, I read two books by Nancy Mitford in this kind of ancient old volume, which I think is from, let's see, 1980. Yes, this book is older than I am. And it references on the cover and the back to television serials that were produced here in the UK by Thames Television of these two books. So I read them one after the other because, you know, they're in combined volumes, so why not? Which meant I was carrying it around a lot and it got even more bashed up than it was in the first place. But hey, I'm not convinced this particular volume is long for the world. I'm not going to keep it, I'm going to pass it on because it's not very pretty, and also I'm not sure if I will want to reread these books again soon. This is the only book which qualifies for two of the challenges that I'm doing this year, as it qualifies for the Classics Challenge and for the British Books Challenge. And because it qualifies for the Classics Challenge, I'm not actually going to talk about it in this video because I'm doing a separate video just about that book and what I thought of it, and, you know, kind of put it in context a bit. So watch out for that. When that's up, I'll put a link in the description and a card up here, just in case you're watching this video later on. Then I got sick. It happens every February. My birthday's in February, so I'm always quite sad. I'm always sick on my birthday, or around my birthday. This year I wasn't actually ill on my birthday. I had a bit of lingering illness, but I wouldn't say that I was actually ill. But in the run up to it, I was ill, I had to have some time off work, and mostly I lay around and caught up on Call the Midwife from like 2 years ago. But once I had exhausted that and seen every episode, I decided to read some books. And when I'm ill, I have a tradition that I always read whatever is the next book in the Bluebird series by Melissa de la Cruz. These books are not very taxing, they're pacey and a bit silly, but I like to read them when I'm ill. They just keep me entertained. Unfortunately, that was the only one of these books that I hadn't read. I need to get hold of the next one in the series before the next time I become ill. So then I kind of sat in front of my bookcase for a while, looking at it mournfully, looking at all these lovely books and thinking, what should I read next? Because I wasn't sure, you know. I thought, well, I'm going to be stuck at home for a few more days. I could read Carry On because it's a large hardback, but then I was like, I don't really want to read Carry On while I'm ill and I'm taking like loads of Lemsip and I'm falling asleep all the time. I'm not going to have the best experience or the best memory of it. I want something that's kind of light and fluffy. I looked at my bookcase and suddenly I was like, Eureka, I've got it. And I read the next book in the Gallagher Academy series by Ali Carter. I read the first one ages ago and had collected some of the sequels, but I hadn't got around to reading any of them. So when I spotted this, I was like, yes, that is exactly what I need. Fun, adventure, boarding school story about girls who are spies in training. That is what I need. And it was exactly what I needed. It cheered me up a lot, and I was surprised by how well I remember the characters. I think that she makes them all quite distinct, and that's really good. It meant I didn't have to spend ages looking at plot synopses. Somebody on the recap tins had actually done a recap of the first book, so I just read that and I was fine. And yeah, I'm quite enjoying this series now. I'm reading the third one at the moment. Did pause it to read some other books that I wanted to read, but hopefully I'll finish that one soon, and that will be in March's wrap up. Finally, I got an email from my local library saying my books were overdue, and I was like, oh crap, because that was several days ago, and now I owe the library a stupid amount of money, but thankfully it has not stopped me continuing to have all the books I had out. Anyway, I went on to renew my books and discovered that one of them was on hold. Only of Yours had been requested by somebody else, so I had to read it very fast as I could, so I would not get an even bigger fine than I already had. And I read it in one day. And I wasn't even particularly intending to read it one day. I read it last week after I did some writing in the morning and the early afternoon, and I'd done quite a bit, so I thought, okay, I'll start reading a book at lunchtime, and I couldn't put it down. I was surprised by how addictive it was, because I knew it would be like The Handmaid's Tale. Lots of comparisons with The Handmaid's Tale, because it is like if in The Handmaid's Tale, there wasn't the kind of the happy ending provided by the fact that it's like a historical document that's been found, and although they don't know specifically what happened to old Fred, you know, that societies in the past is a document of this whole thing that went wrong. You know, instead of knowing that it's all been sorted out, and yes, a lot of people may have suffered, but it's over now. And instead of it being like an adult woman who lived in the world before it changed, going through all of this, if instead you're imagining the life of a girl, a young girl who was born into that regime and doesn't know anything any different, who never had a job or her own bank account or got to choose her lover or anything like that. A girl that's been brought up from day one to see herself as the property of men, then that's what Only Ever Yours is. Whereas The Handmaid's Tale is this kind of this macro view of society, because the main characters are adult woman who lived in the society before it changed, and she knows about the political context and everything. Instead of that, you've just got a girl who doesn't understand any of that, who's never been allowed to understand any of that, to even know what happened, what's going on at all, to just know what she's been told, and you don't even know if that's true. You know, if the characters are in such totally different situations with such totally different backgrounds, and that means that Only Ever Yours is kind of more micro. It's a narrower lens through which you're seeing. You never see and learn anything that the main character doesn't know. It's very close third person, and that in some ways made it more impactful, but at the same time it wasn't as interesting, if that makes sense. So although I really got into the story, at the same time my mind was kind of like extrapolating and reaching and trying to put it all in context, and the context wasn't really there because it's just focused on this one girl. And I think that will kind of make it more accessible to some people, the fact that it's focused on this one individual's experience, and also that it really brings home the horror of it all. Whereas other people, I think, are going to prefer The Handmaid's Tale because of that macro level view that it has on that society. It's not a book that you can really enjoy. It's very bleak and I think it's very necessary, but it's not enjoyable. And also, I have to admit that I guessed what was going to happen in the end at the very start. I guessed what was going on, and it was so obvious to me. I never really became properly absorbed into Frida's point of view, but I still found it really gripping and interesting, and it pulled me through the book so fast. Like I said, I read it in a day, but yeah, I think I would have found it more interesting had I not been able to guess what was going to happen right from the start. But then if I can't see it working any other way, so maybe it's just that I am too good at predicting plots. All these books have been on my TBR for a long time, so they all qualify for the TBR pile challenge, so that's great. And I'm really glad that I finally got around to reading them. So let me know in the comments, how many books did you read in February? Have you read any of these books? What did you think of them? I'd especially like to know what you thought of Only Ever Yours. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more videos of me, give this one a thumbs up. And subscribe so that you make sure you get to see all my future videos. And you'll see me again soon for my video about Nancy Mitford for the Classics Challenge. Bye!